Hey guys, Rob here with McDojoLife. I'm really excited. Man, I think this is episode 16. I have had nothing but gold guests, man, and today's guest is no different. This is Robin Black, to me, the king
Woo!
of the 1 minute breakdown. What's up, dude?
What's happening, man? Well, thank you. I think I am the king of the 1 minute breakdown because I don't think anyone else does 1 minute breakdowns. So I'm the best and the worst at it.
You win by default.
I win and I lose by default. I'm the worst at it too. Yep.
Yeah, dude, I love your stuff. It's really funny because when I look at the videos that you post up, the 1 minute breakdown stuff, you obviously are a martial artist. Like the way that you analyze and look at the fight and break it down in a technical way. One, it's very entertaining because you're looking at this, and some people might not understand what they're
Mhm.
looking at. So I think it's fantastic for the layman to really understand and get broken down why people's foot are in a certain way, why a person stands this way, why are they faking and fainting.
Yep.
You break that down really well. So how long have you been doing the breakdown stuff?
So, yeah, thank you. I love to do them. Like, to me, I'd rather do that than almost anything. It's this side of sex. Like, there's not a lot of things, that I would rather do. There's nothing I want to see on Netflix more than I want to make a breakdown. There's not a video game I want to play, or there's not a food I really want to eat. When I see a great fight, and my wife will occasionally, she's really patient, but she will occasionally freak out. Like, we'll be doing something in the world and something will come up. I'm like, holy fuck. And I have to go and I have to take that apart. It's strange. It's like a compulsion, but I love to do it. I just right away, it's like, and I guess it started really, really young as a kid. I would need to do it to whoever was around. And it wasn't only martial arts, but it was anything where people were moving. Because I started out as a gymnast. I was a gymnast when I was like 4 years old, and I did gymnastics right through till late teens, almost 20s, and then I started doing martial arts at about somewhere between 7 and 9. My mom says it was 9, but I thought it was 7. Um, and I started with Taekwondo, and then I've been always analyzing and wanting to explain things to people because I always found it so interesting. And I take the compliment that it's technical as a very big compliment, but to me, one of the important things is to show it holistically. So I personally think sometimes this is how I used to do it 5 and 6 years ago. I would say this guy did this kick and then this guy did this, which caused this, which did this, but that's not right either. They're not playing cards that we just play. I'll play the low kick card and you play the check card. There's
Yeah.
a physicality that's happening. There's things happening within our body. There's things that a lot, mostly it's going on in our brains. Our brains are telling the body what to do. And then there's an emotional component, there's a physical component, there's fear and anxiety. And so really, I'm really curious about all the science of it, but now also all the art of it and then how they go together. And I started making them sort of in a video form on Fight Network maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And there was big production stuff. It used to take 7 or 8 people to make it. And slowly over time, I learned each of those different skills and developed them. And now it's just me. It's literally, this is my lab right here. I got all my tools in it, microphone. And yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that
That's all you need
crazy?
nowadays, man.
Isn't that
Yeah.
insane? Like
Dude.
you're in Florida and I'm in London and we're hanging out with a bunch of people talking about martial arts here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Isn't it awesome? Technology is the shit,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, like
wild.
the breakdown stuff. I think what I really enjoy the most about it is the technical aspect of it because when you're breaking it down, you're not breaking it down from a layman. You're breaking it down from somebody who actually technically understands what's going on, and I think that that's huge for people. So you yourself obviously have done martial arts.
Yep. Yep.
So what made you start that, and what's your career path through the martial arts?
So, as a kid, I was one of these sort of wildly hyperactive, disjointed attention kind of kids. And my gymnastics, I was really, really into as a kid. And it would fatigue me enough that my parents could handle it. And then, sort of as a young kid, I wanted to do martial arts and became heavily obsessed with it. In my late teens, early 20s, I kind of got into the music business and chasing girls and getting wasted and doing high kicks on stage in leather pants and stuff. And then I kind of came back to it years after that. And second degree black belt in Taekwondo. I've some stripes on my blue belt. I last wore in Jiu-Jitsu. I last wore a gi probably 8 or 9 years ago. I keep wanting to put it back on and dedicate some time to it. I got bronze at the Pan Am Games in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for my age and weight. In around 2007, I got gold at NAGA Worlds, and then I started fighting MMA. I had 9 pro MMA fights, and I wanted to have one fight so that I could really understand, because, and I'd say this, trying not to be rude or judgmental, but if you haven't fought, you cannot really, with any, we can listen and we can choose to enjoy it or whatever if we like, but you cannot really analyze a fight if you haven't been in one. And I say that not because, of the accomplishment of it or that you've earned the right to do it, but you are missing 95% of all the information. And I see it all the time. People who call themselves analysts but have never fought martial arts will say, why didn't this guy this? Or they're judgmentally say, look at the terrible mistake Chris Weidman made in this. And what they're missing is that if they had the experience, they would realize that the overwhelming nature of what's happening with fatigue and fear and anxiety and stuff, the brain is operating at the level it can handle. So you need to experience that. You need to experience that too, or else you are talking about something with 6 or 8% of the information available. The experience itself gives you much of the truth of what's happening. Nobody would ever criticize a fighter for a choice that they make in combat if they had fought a number of times, because you're doing the best you can under the circumstances. Nobody's ever in there choosing to have a bad performance. Their brain will not allow their body to accomplish the things they want to. There's the spotlight effect, which is what happens when people are watching you do something dangerous. There is, there's all of these elements that are there. And so fighting, I was going to do it once so I could experience it. And I realized once I did it once, it happened so fast and it was so intense that it was hard for me to really decipher the experience. So I had to do it again and again. And I wanted to win, and I wanted to even my record. And then I had a chance to fight for a Canadian title. And all of a sudden I fought 9 times.
Yeah.
But by the end, I could experience the flow of being able to find some comfort in fighting, and that's when I really understood what was happening.
Yeah, it's funny. I agree with what you said. I don't think that you really can analyze a fight unless you understand a couple things that you can't just look at. You have to actually be there to experience certain things, like your adrenaline dump and what that does to your body. What you're seeing out of a fighter's eyes is not what everybody else is seeing, because everybody else is seeing you from like this 2D perspective from the side.
Yeah,
you're not looking at the little shoulder movement. You're not looking at the head on, why is he dropping his hand? Is he baiting me? Why did he step to the left just a hair? Was he trying to reach that angle?
Just naturally, you came up with 8, 9, 10 things. There are thousands. Thousands. The foot is curved. When you see it kick, it looks like a thing hits a thing, but it's a curved weapon. There's 1,000. There's a texture to the skin when it touches it. There's thousands of things that are information that must be acquired by doing. And so I had to do it, but and I loved it. I became a different human over and over again through the trials and failures of training, never mind the fighting. And the only way we're going to get better at anything in our lives is if we have enough humility to be teachable. And you'll get that real quick. You'll either quit or you'll get that real quick if you train hard for enough years.
It's funny because most people quit. They're like, you know what? Fuck it. I did my year. I think I'm out.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You had a band.
Yes.
Right? You had a band for a while. So tell me a little bit about your band and what got you into music, man.
That was kind of a natural. It's an open-ended question, but it's a really good question because I think a couple of years ago, I might have a sort of just an off-the-cuff answer, but now I'm not sure what I was looking for. I loved the expression, the entertaining people. I loved the trying to make them feeling the challenge. If somebody paid you a bunch of money, you have to deliver for them. I liked those things. I loved the crafting of music, and I loved, we got into editing of music videos and all those things, and all those skills are part of the breakdown now. Like when I try to do most of those breakdowns in a single take, often improvised. Sometimes I'll jot down an idea, but usually improvised. Sometimes they're improvised, but there'll be thoughts that I had the day before, that day will be part of it that I'll see. But the writing and the crafting and the flow and the poetry of it comes from singing in a band. So it all made sense ultimately. But I think it was also driven by negative things too. Like I think I wanted, it's driven by ego, the desire for attention. I think, what else? There was, sorry, I was just hearing an echo there for a second and it threw me off. Also, the fact that you could, live irresponsibly. You could eat pizza for breakfast. You could drink beer in the afternoon. I think, and at the time when you're 21, that just sounds like fun. But now later in life, I think I was drawn to sort of the irresponsibility of it too, and I don't look at that in a positive way like we did back then. I looked at it in a joking way.
Yeah.
You know.
I think when we're younger, we all chase that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that's a part of us trying to figure out who we are.
You're
Kind
right.
of like when we like martial arts in general. I think that's a part of our self-discovery. And like same thing with fighting. Like I don't think there's any more honest moment you're gonna have with another human being other than when you're fighting them. When you
No.
actually get into a ring and with another human being, it is the most honest experience you will ever have on the planet because you can't lie. There's no lying. It's did you train or did you not?
Yeah.
Are you scared or are you not? Are you prepared or are you not?
Yeah.
And that's it. There's only yes and no answers in there.
It's one of the great things about it. It's also why the failure of losing a fight is so painful because it's truthful. And I this is a very interesting piece of conversation, I think, for me, very deeply, because as much as I do not want to judge other people. I want to recognize where they are at the time. But I find it difficult when I watch a fighter lose, and then he starts to make these excuses. Now, sometimes it's public. Sometimes that has some different purpose. And when he's alone with his coach or his family or himself, he's not making those excuses.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to be judgmental in how I say this either, because I don't judge someone poorly for that. That's just a human being trying to make sense of what's around them. This happened. I don't know what to do about it. I don't know how to process this. I'm just processing it the best I can. So when we see and you can pick any of them. TJ Dillashaw loses to Henry Cejudo. I mean, there's some every week. We, the viewers, shouldn't be sitting back being mad or judgmental at these guys because we don't even, most of us don't even take the process to get through years of your life to put yourself in a situation where you could fail like that. We don't know what we would do. This guy made these excuses. We can't judge that. They're literally trying to make sense of what doesn't make sense to them. It can't be possible that I failed, and it certainly can't be possible that it was my fault.
Yeah.
That's part of the journey of getting to that point. Because, but it is painful. It is painful. Later, the way that you process the pain when you admit it was, okay, did I train? I did. Was I prepared? I was. Was I scared? Yes. But John Jones is scared. BJ Penn's scared. Like, you're scared. You're supposed to be scared. The problem is I didn't prepare for how to make sense of my body's experience in fear.
Yeah.
And if you get to that point, well, shit, that's okay. We learn now. Now we work on it. But it is embarrassing to lose, and especially I got guillotined. Came out a couple of punches, and I went for a throw. The guy pulled guard and slipped into this guillotine, and honestly, there was somewhere between 0 and 1 or 2 that I don't remember times ever in training in my life I had tapped to a guillotine, because very young it was, you get those collections of skills that you get good and bad at. Some you never find, and other ones come naturally. Defending a guillotine was something I learned so young in its most basic form, with the shoulder over the top and pressuring up, the simplest. And I had done it so many times, and I started to do it, and it wasn't working, and the vision was going. And as I went to punch with no power in the body, which was not the right option anyways, I tapped. And as I looked up, my mom was sitting right where I got tapped.
Yeah.
That's a fucking horrible feeling.
Yeah, dude.
over
My mom
time. Yeah.
refused. She
Yeah.
refused to watch me fight.
I don't
And then
blame her.
I think I think at the time, I had already gone through my boxing stage. So I was 6-0 amateur boxer, and I was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to move to kickboxing. I'm doing karate. I know how to
Yeah.
box. Let's do
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
And then I was 3-0 kickboxer. So my ego was starting to get pretty big.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, mom, I really want you to come watch this fight. And they were smoker fights. So they were inside a
Yeah.
bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, my mom shows up, and here I am, like this kid in a bar, like smoky bar, not even old enough to be in the
Yeah.
bar. But I knew the promoter, and he let me fight. And so my mom shows up, and again, same thing, first row. And me and this guy wind up getting into the bloodiest fight I've ever had in my life. Like, he cut me immediately, right off the bat. He hit me, and it got the bridge of my nose busted wide open. He may have even broken my nose. I don't remember. And then I came back, and I wind up hitting him above his eye, and he had a little cut. So we're just bleeding all over the place. And that was off round one. We had 3-round banger. And then as soon as we were done, back then I was self-conscious. So I always wore a white T-shirt when I fought.
Yeah.
And it was just soaked in blood. And like my mom was like, as soon as we were done, I wound up winning by decision, a close decision. I wouldn't have been mad if I would have lost. It was a good fight. And then she was like, don't you ever bring me back to one of these again. You know?
Yeah, I know. And blood isn't, it's just, there's blood in us everywhere. Like it wouldn't, like that's okay. You're not going to lose so much that but to the eye of somebody, never mind your mother, but to the eye of somebody who that's an unfamiliar thing, and it's her son, you totally understand where she's coming from. Like you totally understand. You can't be mad at her. But yeah, it's winning and losing and all of those things, that's all going to shape you. And it's all, and it's going to shape you in ways that people, maybe can't, they understand or they're interested in it when they hear it. But the right win or the right loss will change the next number of fights, change your behavior, change your thinking pattern, change your risk-taking behavior. Like, it's not a coincidence Francis Ngannou's terrible non-engagement performance happened after he took a shit kicking from Stipe. And people be, the reactions of people who are not familiar will be negative, but it's like that guy's brain did exactly what brains are designed to do. His brain did exactly what brains are supposed to do, which was not go toward. I mean, the simplest analogy that we've been using for decades is the kid presses down on a hot element, and then they don't press it anymore because they're fucking. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to learn. We're supposed to learn. And you could say to yourself, "I'm going to get in there. I'm going to kick that guy's ass." I actually found that fight, Francis Ngannou and what was Derek Lewis. I find that they never engaged for the whole fight. I found it fucking fascinating. Fascinating. People are like, is that the worst fight you've ever seen? And I just couldn't believe that was the only narrative that the human conversation could take place. My feeling was not, is that the worst? And I was asked that on the radio, on TV, on all sort of my job-related things. So, the TV host or the radio host would say, Robin, on Saturday night with Derek Lewis versus, is that the worst fight you've ever seen? Thinking that that's just how you begin a controversial television moment.
Yeah.
My curiosity was immediately was, if you sat those guys down before that fight and you said, what do you want to accomplish? They would give you a list of things. And if you asked them honestly, what would be your greatest fear in this or any other fight? And they'd say, my greatest fear would be just that I didn't perform, that I wasn't able to do what I wanted, that I wished I could do some other things. You talk to them after, and they would be saying, I don't know why I couldn't do anything. I don't know why I wanted to. I just couldn't. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That means to me, your brain is overriding your personal desires and your choices and what you're asking it to do. You're telling let's go. Like there's a voice in your head saying, I'm gonna fucking punch this guy, and your brain's going, no, you're not. You're gonna stay the fuck out here. Yeah. That to me is at the root of what it is to be human. Sometimes you say to yourself, yeah, we do it all the time. I'm not going to get mad when I drive to work today. Friday night, you know what? I'm not going to drink at the office party. Or like we say, we do these things and then our brains go somewhere else. and to question how and why that happens, and then have it elevated under duress like that, and then 500,000 people are watching. The second it would be over, you ask them, they're like, God, I would have done anything to be able. I don't know. I just can't explain why. That to me is fascinating. That's what fighting. There was barely a punch thrown in there, but it's one of the most fascinating fights I've ever seen.
Yeah,
But
that's interesting.
you know,
You know, it's when you're in, like you were saying before, it's very difficult to understand what's going on unless you've been there.
yeah,
And when it comes to understanding the psychology behind fights, I think it does help to just understand that people are human. Like their primary job in life is to live.
yeah,
You know,
that's
their
right.
primary job is not to entertain you; it's to
Yeah,
win, and
yeah,
it's to be alive and safe. So when we're looking at fighters, I think we all tend to judge them as an audience and not as humans. I guess
that's
you could say.
right.
We're
That's
like,
exactly right.
entertain me, ready, go. And it's
Well,
like, well, I kind of don't want to get knocked unconscious right now. Like, no, you dance, damn it. You dance for your
yeah.
dollar.
Yep. So I'm just picturing somebody, a reporter, Brett Okamoto, who I very much like. And Brett, I'm a fighter, and Brett comes up and he says, "What can we expect from this on Friday night?" And he shoves a microphone in my face, and I'm fighter A, and Brett's a good guy, and I like him, and he's good at his job, and he's got an ESPN thing, and people are watching it. My answer will be, I'm going to leave it all out there. I'm going to go after this guy. We're going to light it up for the fans. I'm not lying.
Yeah.
That's really on Thursday with every fiber of my being, my absolute belief. Talking to my friend Brett with his microphone and that camera and all these people, I am not lying. I am going to walk into that cage and I'm going to leave it all out there. We're going to bring one for the fans. But fuck, in the minutes, in the seconds leading up, and all of a sudden Derek Lewis is there, and my brain just will not let me do it. And you're right, we judge them as something other than human. I had another conversation at my job, TSN in Canada, with a guy, and he said, Conor McGregor, tweeted this thing, and he said that he's retired, and they said, do you think it's got anything to do with this allegation that he, is involved in some horrific accusations in Dublin? And I said, I don't think his retirement tweet was because there was, very bad accusations of horrible things in Dublin. I think the announcement or the release of that story in New York was because he had a tweet. They've been sitting on that story in the New York Times for a long time, but because he made this tweet, he's in the press, and now they did this. And the guy said, well, that doesn't sound very well thought out. And I'm like, why on earth would it be well thought out? He's just a human. He's just a human being. He's a human being. Human beings do make smart decisions, bad decisions. They do smart, they make errors. Sometimes they do good things. Every one of us is many, many things. We're at our best. We're at our worst. And if
And
you
Connor's
drink,
an interesting animal himself because Connor reminds me a lot of like I would hate to say it in any kind of way. He reminds me a lot of somebody who on the outside looks like he's fucking up, but behind the scenes is laughing his ass off because
yes,
he knows exactly what he's doing and why he's doing it. And he got to the position he is in today because he's not an idiot. He's a very
yes,
intelligent man. And sometimes I think people love to hate him so much that
yeah.
they forget that he's not dumb.
Yeah,
And
but that he's also human at the same time. Let's just say that tweet is after a ninth or a 10th whiskey. That's just you're not making quite as smart of a decision as you would have made without those whiskeys because
yeah,
you're a human being. Human
yeah.
beings are negatively affected by large amounts of alcohol. That's one. So sometimes we're like, well, that's a strategy. He's doing that. Being accused of sexual assault would never be a strategy, no
Oh
matter
hell
how
no, 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 no.
crazy you call
No, no,
yourself.
no, no. I was talking
So
about his
yes,
tweet. I wasn't talking about
exactly,
this.
exactly. But as we put all of those pieces together, he's very smart. But he's
Yeah.
also a human. Humans make errors. He's very actually kind. But if he, consumes narcotics and alcohol, potentially he can be terribly unkind. We are all complex. And anybody who judges Floyd Mayweather or Beyonce or Conor McGregor different than themselves is just not thinking. They're not,
Mm.
they're not taking the broad natural instinct. And when you present this to a person, sometimes they'll say, yeah, but they're in the public eye. They must ... Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you're a father. You must ... And you don't. or you're a citizen, you must drive, ... But you don't. We're humans. We're all flawed. We're inherently flawed. And we're many, many things. That for some of us, those things include Floyd Mayweather is a boxer, but he's also a father. He's also a polygamist. He's also a businessman. He's also an asshole or whatever. We all are, right? Every one of us is. Your relationship with your mother is very different than your relationship with your landlord. The way you act at school is very different than the way you act when a police pulls you over. We're all so complex. And to me, whether we're talking about martial arts, we're talking about what you do when you spotlight something, there are, and I know that you helped the audience find out the truth about martial arts around them. There are good people who do bad things and terrible people who do good things in those moments. And I'm sure you see that too. And when I'm doing my breakdowns, the moments of, I'm never judging. You'll never hear out of me. People will say, well, tell me what, Max Holloway did wrong in round one against Dustin Poirier. I got nothing for you.
Yeah.
He did nothing. He did the very best he could in every circumstance, based on the preparation that he has done his whole life for that moment, combined with fatigue and anxiety and pain and whatever. And in that moment, that was the best he could do. Nobody's ever stepped into a cage and said, let's find some moments where I'll do less than my best. No elite athlete. And even when they do fail, that's not them not doing their best. That was their best. That was the very best they were capable of in that moment. That's all any of us are fucking doing, right? So there's so much in there. There's so many reasons I want to do it. And they don't all have to do with how to put a triangle on somebody. Some of it has to do with, if I can find my way out of this bad position on the bottom in half guard eating elbows, I can find my way out of a weird position at work, or I can find my way through an argument with a good friend. Like it's all there, it's all there.
Funny you're talking about that. There's a book, I think it's called Fight Science, if I remember correctly, or The Science of Fighting, or something equivalent to that.
Yeah.
So basically, the writers of the book took UFC 1 all the way to UFC 100 and saved every little statistic nugget about it.
Wow.
Right? And it breaks down the fighters at the time and like their ability to knock people out, their percentage rates. It's a big book of numbers.
Cool.
But the biggest thing that I got out of it was a section of the book that talked about submissions and the percentages of submissions that would and would not work in what rounds. And every submission, the odds of you getting it go down drastically after the first minute and the first round.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
But there was only one submission where your odds go up as the rounds go on.
Rear naked choke.
No, that's actually, you got a 50-50 chance to make that work, but still your odds of nailing that go down as the fight goes on. There's only one that goes up.
The only reason I say that one is because that one may happen. You can get that one on me by me being fatigued. And as I get more fatigued in the fight, I thought that might be that.
Well, there's another one due to fatigue, but it is due to fatigue. See if you got it. I would say think about positioning and posture. Those are the two.
Head and arm choke?
Triangle choke.
Triangle choke. That's weird. Choke. I would be willing to bet from 100 to 200 that changed. And
maybe. It's a good possibility. Yeah. Well, I think that the UFC has those ebbs and flows of styles too. Yeah. Right now, I think wrestling is a little bit of the hierarchy when it comes to that. But I think it has to do with the mentality and your posture from guard. You start reining them down, your head starts coming down, you start pulling your punches back way farther, opening up triangle chokes. But it was very fascinating to sit there and look at the statistics. One, because I like to bet on fights, but two, when you look at it, it starts to let you break down the psychology of the why, because the numbers lie. Yeah. And, it was very interesting to read that. And rear naked choke, though, was the highest percentage rate of technique submission landed, because you have a 50-50 chance of getting it. That was like the highest percent ratio. So if you got to somebody's back and you just keep shoving rear naked chokes in there, damn it, you're going to get it.
Or keep hitting them. Just keep hitting them. Eventually, like if you hit me enough times, it's harder for me to stop you from choking me. And I'm going to get more tired. You keep breaking me back down. I keep getting up. You keep breaking me back down. I keep getting up. Eventually, I get so tired.
Yeah, did you see that fight? I'm sure you did. This last UFC fight night with Stephen Thompson.
Yes.
The
Yes.
co-main event.
Yes. And that was Blades, Curtis Blades.
Yes,
Yes, I loved
and
it actually.
man, it was so interesting to watch that fight to me because from a jujitsu perspective, I'm screaming at the TV, but from a wrestling perspective, he's doing what he's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So like he kept
Yeah.
trying to get
Yeah.
up, peel the arm. He was
Yeah.
trying to run himself to the
Yeah.
cage, use the cage to stand
Yeah.
back up.
Yeah.
But the other guy was being
Yeah.
good in positional dominance. He was able to keep the back, and he was able to just keep raining him down, break his posture. It was
Yep.
beautiful.
Yeah. So that all to some degree, although some of the game was different, the philosophy is the same as what Khabib is, where the position that Khabib has mastered the most. Once upon a time, if I started fighting you, you would take the guard and fight from guard.
Yeah,
Then from 2000, sorry, from 2000. 7 to 2017, people were like, we don't play guard. Or 2009, maybe, we don't play guard. We go to all fours and we fight our way back to our feet.
mm,
Everybody did it. Everyone believed in it. That's where Khabib attacks you. That's where Curtis Blades attacked you at 4 points. And when we got there, for the most part, we would just stand up. And I even
yeah,
talked to Mike Brown about this a few years ago. He's like, once those 2 feet are on the ground, you have a stationary ground and an entire body and all of the musculature of your body and your legs and everything to just drive yourself up. You're getting up. But that's where these guys started to exploit that. Once upon a time, it was like, shit, his feet are under him. Okay, he's going up. Let's just be in a good position when he gets up and fight him from there. And Curtis and first Khabib and all these guys were like, no, we're not just accepting that. During your
yeah,
feet on the ground, we'll lace the leg, we'll kick something out, and that'll be a place we'll dominate you.
yeah.
And now it isn't a given anymore. You get to 4 points and you fight your feet. It's not a given. You can be exploited there. Curtis did it beautifully. I loved that fight. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, and it was a repeat. It was beautiful to me because it was a repeat of the first round. It was
Yeah.
the first round over and over and over
Yeah.
again. And
Yeah.
it's like it
Yeah.
was almost like he made a decision to go, you know what? It didn't work the first 17 times I tried
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
think if I just try it a couple
Yeah.
more times, I can get it. It was
Yeah.
almost like
Yeah.
rather than trying to win the fight,
Yeah.
he was trying to figure out how to make it
Yeah.
that work for him.
Well, that and to some degree, that's all he has. If you've been taught when you're getting pressured here, go to these spots and go up, and that's all you've been taught.
Mm,
So what is the grand opposite of that? Is fight from guard. That's the
yeah,
grand opposite fork. Instead,
yeah,
we're being pressured, get to 4 points and get up, or go to our back and fight from guard. He just big guy like that, heavyweight in the gym. Fuck, his coach is he's never played guard. He's
yeah.
just never played it, right?
Yeah, and it was funny
So
because he was
yeah,
in half guard. Like the
yeah,
leg was in half guard. He just
yeah,
never laced it. He never
yeah,
tried to get his
yeah.
hooks. He never tried
Just
because
was
he
never taught it.
yeah, maybe butterfly hooks, kick him
Yeah.
away to get
Never
the
learned
in
it.
the face.
Never
Like
learned
nothing.
it. Never
Yeah, he's
learned
like,
it.
fuck
Yeah.
this. I'm getting
Yeah.
up. We gonna fight.
Yeah, exactly. But again, that's not his mistake or his coach's mistake until it is. We can't judge it and go, how the fuck did you not teach this guy guard? How did his collection of training? Well, it's called opportunity cost. You have 20 hours a week. We're going to train you hard. If we put 4 of those hours to fighting guard, half guard, butterfly guard, and fighting off your back, that's 4 hours we cannot spend somewhere else. So we're just going to put that 4 hours in making you be able to get back up so you can
Yeah.
do your thing. And so we dedicated, we allotted our choices. And somebody might say, well, that's a mistake. Well, it's not a mistake if it worked. If
Yeah.
it worked and he got up, then let's say for 100 weeks, 4 hours a week. We have 400 hours of training to get back up and get back to fighting. If that worked, those 400 weeks would have been, or 400 hours would have been proper. And any 400 hours spent training him to fight guard would have been worthless because he wasn't in guard.
Yeah.
Right? But
Yeah.
instead, if we had pulled them away and put them to guard so it's just basically like building a fucking Dungeons and Dragons character when you were a kid or like a video game or something to a certain degree for our purpose of understanding it. There's an opportunity cost to every hour spent developing the holistic fighting machine that you have. And they just didn't think it was worth taking good hours, and spending them on bad technique that a big oversized heavyweight would not rapidly learn. Instead, they put it towards what seemed more natural and important, which was standing up. And so as a result, he couldn't do it.
That's a fascinating thing to me about martial arts in general, right? But specifically, I wouldn't say traditional martial artists because traditional martial artists are usually very open. The real ones,
Yeah.
anyway. They're like,
Yeah.
oh man, like there's value in everything, right? They're very open, honest people. But you have a lot of guys who, in the community, are very closed-minded to MMA,
Yes.
not
Yes.
understanding what the word means. Mixed martial arts. So the martial
Yeah.
arts is there, but then they look at this and they think that it's its own entity when it's really not. It's it because there's so many different ways to learn
Yeah.
how to be an MMA fighter. Like there's so many different game plans. And like you were saying, like Dungeons and Dragons, like you might be an elf or you might be a dwarf.
Yep.
You can't
Yep.
fucking be both. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like it's
Yep.
impossible.
We
So
trained them all like
sometimes,
George St. Pierre. We trained them
yeah.
all. George was perfect, so we just wanted everybody to train like that. And that's not, George isn't the perfect MMA fighting machine. He's the perfect MMA fighting machine for a guy that's George St. Pierre.
Yeah, and like his arts are different than some other guys' arts.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
him doing the sport karate thing, as well as
Yeah.
having the Kyokushin background, and as well as
Yeah.
his wrestling. I think
Yeah.
is great,
Yeah.
and his ability to go to get someone to the ground, go and work from guard, is awesome. You know, he does a
Yeah.
very good job.
Yeah.
Not everybody does that. If you look at a guy like Damian Maya, that's not going to be Damian Maya's
Yeah.
game plan at all. He's not going
If
to play that game.
if Ben Askren's the welterweight champion of the world, are we all going to go back and say, actually, don't master everything, just become really good at closing the distance, getting a guy down and wrestling him? Are we going to
Yeah.
just suddenly go one guy? That's the new prototype. No, that's just Ben Askren's way. And it's great for him. But
That's the beautiful thing about martial
yeah,
arts too, man. Is like when you look at guys in MMA and you look at guys who are going after each other, they're so dramatically different. And it goes to show you the spectrum of all the beautiful martial arts that there are. And it's on display. Like if you look at Michael Venom Page, no one fights like that dude. No
no,
one fights like Michael Venom Page.
no,
You know?
yeah, takes too many hours, too much time, too many years of lifetime to make those things, to be sensitive enough to make them work. Like it's going to be just hard to touch him. He doesn't get hit, and that's an incredible skill. Like
Yeah.
imagine and I'm always sometimes I because I've got to commentate like every kind of martial art. I did 18 different martial arts that I got to commentate at the World Combat Games in Russia over about 2 weeks at one point. And each time you learn something different, not just because of what's there, but what isn't there. Sanda is Wushu. It's a kung fu that is, Kung Lee did it. It's basically kickboxing with throws and a lot of the elements of MMA, but there's no knees. And as soon as we clinch, everything is different because
Yeah.
one threat has been removed. So the very first thing we do is we go back here.
Yeah.
Because there's no danger. This isn't coming, right? So we go here because our hips are back. You can't grab our hips. And if we did that in MMA, you just knee me right up the middle. But we've removed that single threat, and it changes the dynamic of everything. And, so I do love the singular things, but I'm definitely in a moment where I kind of think those are just learning systems and belief systems. In some way, there is no boxing or wrestling. It's all just fighting. It's all just, you've chosen selections and segments of fighting to concentrate on and to build your Michael Venom Page or to build your George St. Pierre. But and so their training systems and their belief systems. But I mean, a Sanda with knees, is that Muay Thai? Or is that Sanda with knees? Or is it all just fucking fighting?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is Muay Thai and Letway is the same but with headbutts. So is Letway just Muay Thai with headbutts? Or is it a completely different martial art? Or are they just all fighting with rule structures and going in and out of these views and like, there is no boxing. Me seeing the world that way as an analyst and as somebody who's going to study something for, as long as I live, that will help me view punching and kicking differently. Then a year from now, I'll be obsessed with boxing and its history and where it came from and who taught what and why it evolved a certain way and what key fighters showed people that things suddenly did and didn't work. And those things that didn't work will later work again as we forget about them. And it's all one lifetime of study. And our job is that we have to recognize that our beliefs about martial arts are going to change. They've changed many, many, many times. What that means is what we believe now is only right now. Like if it's something, for example, I'm just like everybody else. I used to say, when you're fighting a southpaw, you've got to keep your front foot on the outside. Entirely not true. That's not true at all. If I put my foot on the outside, there may be a more direct line for my right hand. But if you put your foot on the inside for the purpose of drawing my right hand to fucking penalize me for it, did you break the rules? There's no rule. You can fucking put your foot wherever you want. But I believed that because Joe Rogan believed that, and I look up to him, and he said it on TV, and Michael Ciavello then said it, and somebody else then said it, and then everybody said it, and then a coach said it, and then I was like, okay, I got to keep my foot on the outside. Then people better than me later realized that that's a novice belief. I'm a novice, so therefore they know I believe that. So therefore they know if they put their foot inside my foot, I'm going to throw my right hand, which is what they want, and they're going to counter me, and they're going to manipulate my incorrect belief that I have to put my foot somewhere, which means they know where I'm putting my foot, which means they know what I'm doing, which means they're going to take advantage of me, right? So as soon as we start, we must spend a lot of our time trying to disprove our own beliefs or realize how our own beliefs would be exploited. Once we and if we do that, we're going to become better martial artists, smarter martial artists, have more to share, and move on.
And one of my favorites is it's something I exploit all the time when I spar people, because it's how everybody is taught, is the lead with the jab. So everybody leads with the jab.
Yeah,
so,
I slip right hand. I slip right hand almost every.
But I know you're going to jab me now because everyone's going to jab me. Yeah. So if we're starting off, I guess that's the karate in me too. If we're starting off, my goal is to hit you first. Yeah. So whenever you go to throw that jab, I'm just really good at defending jabs. Yeah. Because I already know that no matter who I fight, it's going to be the first thing that we're gonna start with.
And if it's not quite, I just tip my head just a little bit more forward, and then it will be. Yeah, just a little more, and it will be. And it's if you're highly likely to jab me, or throw a right hand, which I'm ready for, or throw a leg kick. And now you may do something else, and we better be alert for it. But if we can just encourage you to do one of them a little more, heavier on our leg, so you kick it, that's what we want, right? I'm just realizing that that bare knuckle boxing is going to need me in about 10 or 15 minutes. Okay. We should do this again. We should definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to, man. I'd love to do. You were talking about Instagram Live. I think that'd be really, really fun.
Yeah. Why don't we do it later today or tomorrow? Do an Instagram Live.
Yeah, dude. Just hit me up. I'm down. Yeah. I do have one thing before you go, though. It's a question I ask everybody, so it'll be the last question. So I love stories from the dojo. It's my favorite thing ever. It's stuff that you would only see inside the studio. Anybody who's ever done martial arts for an extended period of time has had a story that, oh, man, this guy came in the gym one time and I was thinking maybe if you could think of one, maybe you had one off the top of your head.
There's a legend in Toronto about Babalu coming in to grapple Misha Cirkunov, but I wasn't there for it, and that Misha shocked him, but I wasn't there for that. I'm trying to think. That's a really cool one. We spent about 45 minutes with Mike Tyson, but no punches were thrown. It was really, really cool. Actually, this maybe, go slightly outside of your type of story, but I interviewed Mike Tyson for Fight Network. And do you remember an interview that he did in Canada where a guy asked him something about being a registered sex offender?
Oh, my God,
So 3 hours earlier, he was with us in Toronto, and we were all in the gym, and we're all hanging out, and he was such a sweet and wonderful person, and partly because he was surrounded by people who loved him, right? We all were sharing stories with him. We were telling him about our life. I invited my friend Sandy, who was my training partner for a long time. She is the Canadian boxing champion and has fought for world titles many times. Her nickname's Little Tyson. invited her along, and all these people. And Mike could just feel the fucking love. So he hung out for like 45 minutes telling us stories. And then he got in a car and went straight there. And that guy called him a sex offender. So partly him almost killing that man was because he was rude. But partly I think it was because it was such a hard swing in Toronto from so much love, like to minutes later being treated that way by that guy. I'm trying to think about other. Oh, so I have a friend named Ian, and Ian was cornered by Evan Tanner. They were very close, and when I fought my first fight, Evan was cornering Ian, and we learned a lot from him. You know, when you have your first fight and Evan Tanner is sitting at the dinner table with you, talking to you about it, it's fantastic. And in that same week, Ian goes to train, and a bunch of us were training together, and Sam Stout and Ian go to do a round, and Ian shoots in on Sam, and his head connects with Sam's hip bone as he's shooting hard to take him down. His temple hits Sam's hip bone. He goes down. He's clearly out of it, and it's in his book actually. I'll link it on my Instagram. It's in book. Ian's book is PKPEEKAAY. You can see it, find it on Instagram. So he drills in, he hits Sam, and he's basically out. He's making no sense, you know. And then we all go down to sort of sit and stretch. And our training sessions would begin the same way. Everybody sit in a circle, kind of stretching and chatting. Then we train, and then everybody kind of sit in a circle and stretch and chat again.
Yeah.
Ian kind of goes back down and sits and stretching and chatting, and then we get up to leave, and he starts panicking that training was canceled. And you realize the last 2 hours of training are just gone from his mind. He thinks that it's just starting, and somehow, you know, why is everybody leaving? He starts freaking out, which leads me to another story. Actually, again, this one's fighting. It's not in the dojo, but Joe Dirksen is fighting Pat Cote, and Pat drills Joe, and he drops him. And Joe is like, you see it, and he flops to the ground. Pat goes in to finish him, and Joe throws up a triangle and catches Pat and taps him out. And Joe stands up, and you don't really know what's going on. And they raise his hands, and he's way out of it. So he goes, you know, and you can see it. They take him into the back, and he starts freaking out. He's really mad, right? And they're like, Joe, what are you doing? Fuck. He's throwing things around. They go, you won. And he goes, I did? Okay, good. And they're kind of looking at him. And then he gets mad again, and he starts throwing all his stuff around. And they say, Joe, you won. He goes, I know, but man, I've been in this fight with Sheila for the last 3 days, and she's fucking pissing me off. And they stop, and they go, Joe, you divorced Sheila 3 years ago.
Oh, shit.
He had been punched back in time 3 years. Which is just fucking terrifying, right? And of course, Joe is fine, and he's fine to this day. He's a happy, healthy guy. But that to me, I'm sorry I tangented off to tales from
that's great.
TKO, but
no, that's hilarious, man. I think that whenever you get hit like that, it's again, that's another experience that you have to experience to know what that's like, because it's a very surreal moment that you realize, fuck, my brain is a machine and it can fail.
My brain is you know, has a blip or two in it, and hopefully this thing will get fixed. It's a wild one, but that's one of my favorites. Joe tells it much better than I do, but
no, man, that's great. But thank you real fast for coming on the show. I know you got to go. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'm looking forward to doing more and working with you more.
Let's take a couple of your crazy, bullshit martial art videos. If you've got some of those around, you pick a few of them and I'll break them down.
That would be so amazing. I would love to hear your breakdown of that shit, because you always analyze things from such a realistic point of view. It'd be interesting to see how you analyze something that's just completely bullshit.
I think I'll have to just show it. I think I'll just have to show it.
Real fast before we go, would you like to plug your stuff real fast so everybody knows um, how to find you, where to?
You were just interrupted there, but if we're still on, I'm at Robin Black MMA on Twitter and Instagram. That's where I put all my 1 minute breakdowns. And then it's it's youtube.com/Robin Black. But I think I might have lost you. I don't know if I did or not. But if so, if not, it's been a lot of fun, man. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Oh shit! I think we're having like a little bit of a connectivity issue here. Damn it! Right at the end. um, but can you hear me? Well, in any case, just in case anybody's still listening or whatever. Being on, I really appreciate that.